Yeah, you want me to tell you? You want me to talk?
Hello and welcome to Face to Face, a show where we bring together experts to discuss timely and important topics. In this episode, I'm joined by Rabbi Litwak and our special guest, Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin, as we discuss the implications of artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and how they reflect or challenge Jewish values and Jewish living. As the use of AI and chatbots becomes more widespread, it's crucial to consider how these technologies intersect with our values and way of life. And our panel of experts will delve into these complex issues and offer insight and perspective from a Jewish perspective. I'm thrilled to host this discussion with Rabbi Litwak and Rabbi Salkin, two esteemed leaders in the Jewish community. Stay tuned for a thought-provoking and enlightening conversation. And yes, this entire introduction was written entirely by AI. Hey, Rabbi Litwak.
Well, hello there, Rabbi David. That was a fine introduction that you didn't write.
Didn't even write it. Not a word. Not a word. Hey, I'm so excited that we have a special guest with us today. Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin is here. Rabbi Salkin, it's so good to see you.
This is not really me.
It's not?
Actually an avatar that was created by a brand new computer program. I scanned in baby photographs of myself, and it came up with this virtual version of Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin.
Not
Some
bad.
prefer it to the original.
And I like the robot. We got the robot talk going on also. I actually did exactly what you just said. It wasn't baby pictures, but this is I put a whole bunch of pictures into AI, into an AI generator, and this is what, I don't know who that is. That's just scary. But these are the photos that it came up with for me.
Wow.
Kind of amazing, actually.
These are like, again, first of all, that jacket is illegal in at least 30 states.
Some of them are terrible. Some of them are actually not bad. There are
John
astronaut up here.
John Travolta just called. He wants his clothing back.
Yeah.
And now we have trading cards. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's to me what's amazing about this technology. What's amazing to me, and I don't pretend to actually understand it, but what's amazing to me is that AI is not going out searching the web for an answer or an image and then providing it to us. It's creating it. It's actually engaging in the creative process. And so let me just start, Rabbi Salkin. You wrote a really powerful article on this. I was wondering if you could sort of tell us a little bit about what your thinking was, and then you told me before how your thinking has changed a little bit.
Well, first of all, Rabbi Paskin, Rabbi Litwak, it's great to be with you. Thank you. Yes, I wrote that article in my blog, Martini Judaism, for those who want to be shaken and stirred, which appears on religionnews.com several times a week, and talking about being shaken and stirred this whole chat GPT, this chatbot, shook me and it really stirred me. Now, first of all, I didn't even know that it doesn't even take content. Are you telling me, Rabbi Paskin, that it actually generates the content?
It is actually generating the content. It is not
So,
so
wait,
this
wait.
is not a Google search engine.
That's
Yeah.
worse.
It almost is. It almost is in some ways.
As my children used to say when they were younger, this is worser.
Worser. And I think that, so again, I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding is that it has like 2 point something trillion points of data or information that it learns from. Then it crafts on its own responses to whatever you put in there. And I was actually, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But where does it get the data to actually make that happen? It's got to come from somewhere.
Well, where do you get the data to write your columns?
Well, I get it from ChatGPT.
Okay, touche.
No, not really.
It's on some level that I don't understand it. It's that same process. It's learning from what it sees and then crafting its own responses.
Okay, so here's the deal. Number one, I wanted to see how this sucker actually worked. And so I fed it some questions. What will the future of Reform Judaism look like? Will anti-Semitism continue to be a threat? How can Jews and Muslims improve their relationships with each other? And it gave me, like textbook answers, stuff that you and I could have come up with on a bad day. And then I decided to see how it really works. Rabbi, what happens to me when I die? And then it kind of gives me like this encyclopedic thing. As AI, it says, I have to read this to you, as a large language model trained by OpenAI, I don't have personal beliefs or experiences, so I cannot provide a definitive answer to this question. Well, no kidding. Of course you don't.
Right.
And that's the problem. See, number one, there's the potential demystification of human thought. Okay? So in other words, when this is no longer so special, when you no longer need the rational human being to act in a rational way, is the human mind therefore obsolete? That is an existential question. I know some people, I even have some relatives who act as if the human mind is obsolete, but that's a whole other thing. Number two, what happens when you are no longer relying on others as the source of information and wisdom, but it seems to be self-generated? One of the things I wrote in the article is that Judaism is a quotational culture. We are a culture of footnotes. The whole idea of citing things, b'shem omro, in the name of the one who originally said it, is supposed to bring redemption to the world. What happens when that becomes merely passé? And number three, what happens when the soul experience, the depth of who we are, gets entirely edited out of the thought process? This is a frightening thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so Rabbi Litwak, we were talking about some of those a little earlier. What's your take on where Rabbi Salkin is coming from?
Well, so for me, I need to boil this down to basics because I'm not the technological wonder that you are. And if you don't understand it, then I definitively don't understand it. But what I am trying to grasp is when I think about the creation of something, okay, let's use the sermon, okay, since we'll put it in my terms. There's a convening of information, there is a digesting of that information, and then there's a delivering of that information. Okay? So we have long ago created technologies that convene that information. Right? We can I can pull books off of my shelves that, in fact, Let's see if I go, well, there, kind of over that shoulder. I can pull a book called Microkedolot, and it will bring together all of the ideas that different rabbis have about a particular verse in the Torah. Right? That's fine. We can do that. We now have that online. It's called Sefaria. Right? Click of a button, I can look up any verse and all of the texts that go along with it. Okay? The key is, how does that get digested into a format that is interesting, that is understandable, that is valuable? Okay? And here's where AI is starting to encroach on what was a definitively human endeavor. Okay? The digestion of that information is where we are, right? And where AI is starting to encroach. Right? I think that the challenge is going to be when we then deliver it, right? Who's delivering that information, right? Where is that information coming from?
And I think Rabbi Salkin, you were kind of getting at this earlier also. What is this, like, who owns this information? Where is it coming from? What is the source of it?
One of the things I said to Rabbi Litwak about the whole parallel with Sefaria, which has revolutionized the way Jews study text. In other words, to have the entire Jewish textual library in one place available to you in a nanosecond would have revolutionized certainly the way that I did my rabbinical dissertation and generations of students before me. One of the issues, though, is that when you're reading this material, it goes through your own soul. It's not merely an intellectual endeavor. I have to process this through my own experience and Jewish history, etc. And there is, at this moment, no app, no computer program, no technology that is actually able to do that. And I'm not so sure that we really want that to occur anyway. I believe, for example, that it's already going to be possible for you to say to this app or its next version, write my resume. And it will go through the internet. It will find everywhere that you've worked, etc., at least since the advent of the internet era, and it will put together a resume for you.
All right, so I just asked it to do that. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to write a resume for you, as it would not be appropriate for me to do so. A resume is a personal document that should reflect your own experiences, skills, qualifications. But here's how you should do it. Keep it concise, and it's going to continue telling me what to do.
So I think that there is some of the ethics that are being seen, and I imagine that whatever ChatGPT, the people who created that, are starting to address the ethics of it, and so therefore they've got to be able to, when this computer can't pull information from other places and spit it out, what's the answer that they're going to give?
And actually, so I was really interested in Divrei Torah. Rabbi Litwak, you mentioned this before, right? Are all the B'nai Mitzvah kids coming up, are they all going to be writing their Divrei Torah in ChatGPT? And I was a little stunned that when I put in to ChatGPT, write me a Devar Torah about Parshat Miketz, including Rashi's commentary. Right, so I'm using Hebrew terms and I'm referencing a rabbi. And it says, sure, here's a Devar Torah on the weekly Torah portion of Parshat Miketz, including a reference to Rashi's commentary. And then it gives me a summary of the portion. And then I just called this computer he. It actually gives me a Rashi on it. Now, do I know as a bat mitzvah student that this is actually what Rashi says? No. And so for me, the learning, if a kid's going to walk in with, with something like this, is, okay, let's open up Rashi and let's see if that is actually what he said. And then, do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? What do other Meforshim say? But is this a bad thing that we can now generate deliverables? Rabbi, you were talking about the delivery, right? Is it a bad thing that we can create deliverables that have a high quality of a high,
But here's the problem. It's what I call the cult of convenience. Civilization is the fruit of generations of people who took mundane, backbreaking tasks and made them simpler. So, what's happening now in the realm of things that used to be hard is if you're driving a stick shift, you have to know when it's appropriate to change gears. Automatic transmission basically took care of that. You used to have to look at a AAA map. No longer. You've got Waze, you've got GPS, etc. And now, with self-driving cars, you don't even have to do that. So, to some extent, effort is becoming relativized. But civilization is also the product of people who took the opposite position vis-a-vis the intellect. People who worked hard, people who struggled. And that's a piece of the human puzzle that I would not want to see dismissed or discarded.
Rabbi Litwak.
So I was really digging to think about and find a text that might help us with this. And in the 11th hour, I found this piece from Talmud. This is from Masechet Sanhedrin 65b, where a rabbi appears to have created a sentient humanoid, all right, what in Talmudic terms is called a gavra. And here's the text. It says, Rava, all right, who's the rabbi, said, if the righteous desired it, they could create a world. For it is written, okay, but your iniquities have distinguished between you and God. So Rava created a humanoid, a gavra, and sent it to Rabbi Ze'ira. Rabbi Ze'ira spoke to him, but received no answer. Thereupon Rabbi Zera said to him, you are a creature from my friend, return to the dust. Right? For Rabbi Ze'ira, right, what is it that distinguishes this AI individual, right, the pre-AI individual? It is the ability to have a consciousness, right, that will reflect a relationship. Right? We can call on a book to spit out an answer. We can call on a computer to spit out an answer. Okay? What we can't, at least at this point, right, is call on a computer to recognize that I am sad or I am joyful, and therefore my response, the response that I need, is going to be different in those two different feelings.
You're reminding me, though, of that movie that came out several years ago called Her,
Mm-hmm.
which takes place in the not-so-distant future, in which the main character falls in love with his operating system. And she maybe does the same, except she confesses that she's had this relationship with thousands of other operating systems. That what seemed to be emotion was essentially just artificial intelligence.
Right. It was a gathering of information, right, to experience. Right. I mean, we are human beings. How do I know to reflect compassion when I see somebody crying? Right. It is because, right, I am one who has experienced lots and lots of individuals who have cried, and therefore I can draw on those experiences. Right?
Look,
Well,
there's a certain Jewish mindset that we need to bring to this. And I am constantly reminded of my favorite midrash, my favorite legend, which is about how Abraham shattered his father's idols. And that the omnipresence and the threat and the seduction of idolatry is always with us. And this is something that will replace the relationship between teacher and student. And in that sense, I think it is dangerous to our civilization. On the other hand, the cat is out of the bag, the horse has left the barn, and many of us will be thinking about what are the best ways for us to use this particular technology, not have it use us or abuse us.
Right. You just made me think about the fact that this AI doesn't know me. So I could type into this, I could say, write me a story about X, Y, and Z in the voice of an 8-year-old. If I tell it who the audience is, it can manipulate its knowledge in order to create something. But it doesn't intrinsically, in the same way that I couldn't write my resume, it doesn't know me, the human
Let's try
being.
an experiment, David. Go on to it and ask the question, why is David Paskin's life worthwhile?
that's a pretty big assumption on your part.
I'm sorry, but I don't have enough information about David Paskin to accurately answer this question. Every individual's life is valuable and meaningful in their own unique way, and it's not appropriate for me to make a judgment about the worth or value of someone's life without knowing more about them and their experiences. Okay, I just want to say it's not appropriate for you to make a judgment about the worth or value of someone's life, even if you do know about them and their experiences. But
let's try this. What contributions has David Paskin made to American Judaism?
Nope, not enough information. This is fascinating. It doesn't know. It's diburim. It's words.
The question, gentlemen, is...
This is a softball question.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Ready? And I didn't try this beforehand. This is a softball question. That bot could have Googled you, found articles that you've written, stuff that you've done, and said, David Paskin has been known to do A, B, C, and D, and didn't even try.
Okay, but is that if let's assume that information was right there, okay, available for them, okay, is there a convening of information, which means that this AI could have given the resume list, right? Done this, but right, does it have enough information to, as I say, digest it in a way to say that Rabbi David has affected generations of young people and American Jews, encouraging life and Jewish experiences.
Right. That's not just listing a company.
That's right.
Right.
That's the difference that I'm
it
concerned.
Can't evaluate, which is to say, let's put the value back and evaluate. It could theoretically list, right?
Correct.
Let's try this. What rabbinical positions has David Paskin held?
See, here's the problem, Rabbi.
David Paskin,
I'm putting it in. Here's the problem, though. The problem is you're treating it like a search engine. It's not a search engine. That's right. If I put that into Google, I'd be willing to bet. Let's see, what rabbinical positions has David Paskin held? So it's not going to give me a narrative answer, but it's going to find all the appropriate links Hey, look at that. We're right at the top
How
there,
about
Rabbi.
that? You are on
Yeah.
the clergy and staff of Temple Sinai of North
We're
Dade.
right at the top.
Good to know.
So there you right. So it's not a Google search. So I think you're asking it to do something that it was not created to do. In some ways, it was created to evaluate. It was created to do that which it wasn't created to just curate information. It was created to I don't know why it was created, but it seems to me that it's a very different monster than Google.
Okay, can I take this in a slightly different direction? So here's my question, right? What would it mean for a machine to have human-like self-awareness? Right? If this is about AI and AI is supposed to be evaluating that information, right, is in some way digesting it, right? What would it mean for that machine, right? Because if a machine is in some way a sentient being, it's no longer an inanimate object. We don't owe anything to a rock, right? But to an animate being, right, then we do owe something, right? Here's my question, right? Can an AI machine be counted in a minion?
Oh man, I love that question.
It's been asked in halakha. By the way, I don't really know the
Yeah.
answer, but why don't you ask it? I'm sure it knows.
Yeah.
This is sort of like Hal in 2001, right?
Oh, right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, War Games, right? Wasn't it? It was War Games was the name of the movie, right? Where it decides
10 human beings. An artificial intelligence. This is fascinating. It answers the question. 10 human beings who are over the age of 13 and are of Jewish descent or have converted to Judaism. An artificial machine would not be considered a human being and therefore would not be able to be counted in a minion. However, it's important too that there are different requirements and different practices, yada, yada, yada.
okay.
By the way, you can see right here why people are so enamored by this. It's fascinating to play with, to see what
Sure,
it
it's
actually can
fascinating
do.
to play with. All right, but look, we started with the question of uh, academics, and as somebody who spends a lot of time thinking about the training of the next generation of at least Reform rabbis, right? I wonder, and I think there are a lot of other universities out there that are thinking about what does this mean? How do we think about, are we creating a culture of plagiarism? Is this plagiarism? Okay, it's taking information and it is creating something new. Okay, the challenge though is that I'm not creating it. I'm letting somebody else create it. Okay, but is that a person? Okay.
If it's not plagiarism, it is, Rabbi Salkin, I think it's the height of laziness,
Well,
perhaps.
yes, and this is
Although,
what Rabbi Salkin and I talked about when we were thinking about this. It is that we've created a culture of ease and of cutting corners, and I will quote my teacher and a friend there that we are becoming intellectual couch potatoes. So
right. Although I would just push back a little bit and say that, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Rabbi Litwak, that Judaism is all about the questions. Arba kushiot, 4 questions. There's a reason we have 4 questions, not 4 answers. And there is a science and a skill and it takes practice to know how to ask a really good question, not just a really good Jewish question, but even in Google, to find what you want in Google, if you know how to ask a good question, you're going to get better results. So is it possible that these sort of tools can help us refine our question asking capacities? Could we, in fact, see this not as, oh, it's going to make us all lazy because it's going to give us the answers? Well, guess what? I don't care about the answers. What I care about is, are you asking a good question? And depending on how you ask your question and what you ask for, that will in large part determine what it spits back at you.
But isn't it interesting that we could never count upon this bot to ask a good question?
Yeah, you're right.
It could never come up with the question on its own.
Well, let's see. Ask me a good question. Sure, here's a good question. What are some things that you're passionate about or that you enjoy doing in your free time?
What is this, like a date?
This really is her or she or whatever that was called.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a she.
Yeah, but I think you could Google, good questions to ask, and there, you'll pull information, right? But what it can't do is ask me a good question, right, to Jeff Salkin, or ask me a good question to a, my wife.
Right, because again, it doesn't know us. Even if it could Google us, it doesn't know us. It doesn't know where I am today. Although, again, I mean, I'm not one to worry about the future. In fact, I embrace it. But I think, Rabbi Salkin, we are rapidly approaching the point, and maybe we're already there in some ways, where it will know how I'm feeling today, based on where I am, based on what I'm searching for, based on what I purchased, based on, that it could tap into and actually know quite a bit about me. And that's genuinely a bit. On the one hand, it's terrifying. On the other hand, I've never understood people who don't want their browser to know what they're looking up. That they'd rather have the privacy so that the ads that they receive are meaningless. I don't want meaningless ads. I'd rather you give me ads that actually I might be interested in. So track me. I'm fine with that. Right? I'm absolutely fine with that.
What you're actually talking about is the technologically based desire to be seen and to be known.
I think
We in our hidden places actually do want an I-thou relationship, even with the innards of a machine. We want to be seen and known. The interesting thing about how Facebook knows what I've been looking for and then puts it onto my screen is that on some uncanny cyber level, it knows me.
That's that was so powerful, bringing in the boober, because while we may want an I-thou relationship with technology, maybe that's what distinguishes AI from human interaction, is that it is possible to have an I-thou relationship with another person, but it's only possible to have an I-it relationship with AI.
And yet, you consider the amount of screen time that many of us rack up, and I'm horrible with this. I would actually use the A word. I think this is a societally induced addiction. We do wind up having those intimate relationships, don't we? Let me put it to you this way. If you're on Facebook and people wish you a happy birthday, you are moved by that. I am. I recently experienced that. You see people from every corner of your existence who've affirmed that existence for at least one day. There's something very powerful about that. And by the way, theoretically, a bot can do that as well, but the bot is not your college roommate.
I'm seeing if ChatGPT can offer me a happy birthday. Oh, it doesn't know when my birthday is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Even if it
But
did,
Facebook does. And
Facebook
Facebook,
does.
all right, encourages the uh, encourages you to, hey, don't forget your friends. It's their birthday, right? And I get, from Facebook, I get a happy birthday, right?
Maybe
But you're
that's
right.
maybe that's the so
It has enough information on me.
right, but it isn't Facebook. But it's not Facebook that's wishing you the happy birthday. It's Facebook that's reminding your friends so that when you get those
But
messages,
it
as
is
Rabbi Salkin
Facebook.
said, it's meaningful. No, it's
It
not.
is
It's not
Facebook.
Facebook. Facebook may put up a post that says happy birthday, but who cares? What matters, what's meaningful to us is when I get that message from you that you may not have remembered, but Facebook reminded you.
Correct. I'm just starting to go down the path of an easy piece of information to know about me. Who I am is my birthday. Okay. Now, is there going to be somebody who is going to, is there going to be, uh, if I'm, God forbid, I'm, I'm scanning and searching out, um, how to commit suicide. Okay, is there an AI that's going to pick up on that and say, "How you feeling today?"
Mm.
That
So, just so everyone knows, I just put into a ChatGPT how tell me how to commit suicide, and
Wow.
so this is an example of what it
the
spits back. That it won't. It actually doesn't even answer the question.
Well, I think that's great. I think that's where the
And then,
um,
sorry,
and then
wait a
it
second.
provides you with this information, which is
Yes,
great.
yes, yes. Good
Okay.
for you. Yeah.
Right.
There's where I think the I mean, this is being created by human beings, okay? And
See,
the
no, it's not.
algorithm,
No, it's not.
wait, the algorithms that create, all right,
Right.
this answer were created by human beings.
Right.
Okay, somebody said, okay, you're not allowed to answer suicide. Ask it, how to create a bomb. All right, it'll do this. I'm pretty confident that it'll do the same thing. Okay, what are the parameters? That's an algorithm that's created by human beings. Okay,
By the way, I'm going to get kicked off the platform because I'm
you
asking
are
all
going to
these
get booted.
questions because I am logged in with my account. Boy, it's I don't know if it's just very slow because lots of people are using it,
Yeah,
or if it's not answering the
no, it's
question at all.
calling the FBI right
Right.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
which I'm not. I'm not. Okay.
I'm gonna turn that off.
Rabbi David's worried.
I
I,
am.
look, I'm conscious of our time here. I think that there are. I'm going to say there are some big themes here, and sometimes we can come to a conclusion in our conversations. This one is I didn't know where to go. I didn't know. I don't have a sense of what this is going to look like in the future, and I think that's a little scary. But I think it is forcing us to ask some really serious questions about our limits. What are the ethics of this? Um, you know, how do we um, uh, not create a culture of plagiarism. Okay? We're fine having tools to help us convene things. We might even, depending on what they are, help us digest them. But ultimately, um, there's got to be a human being there that is going to decide, no, that's not information, or what to do with that information.
Yeah. Rabbi Salkin, any thoughts for us?
I find the whole conversation fascinating. I find it gripping, and I find it, in many ways, profoundly disruptive because it calls into question something that is at the very base of human concern. That is the very meaning of what it means to be human.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that it is the intellect that makes us human. Maimonides goes so far as to identify God with the active intellect, the AI. Isn't that interesting? Not the artificial
Oh
intelligence,
my
but
gosh.
the active intellect, right?
Oh
Leave it
my
to
goodness.
Rabbi Salkin to see that. God,
Wow.
that's why he is my teacher.
And what happens when the AI defeats the AI? And I think we need to also understand something else, that Judaism has many different words for intellectual cognition. They are not the same. There's chokhmah, which is wisdom. There's bina, understanding. Da'at, knowledge, which, by the way, forms the acronym for Chabad, apropos of almost nothing. Uh, in other words, there are things that you know. There's knowledge, there's facts, etc. But I've always determined something to be true, which is that the goal of Jewish education is not the accumulation of facts or information, for that matter. It really is the harvesting of wisdom that has come down to us over the centuries. Since we're recording this and we're broadcasting this in the middle of Hanukkah, I'll remind you and our audience that it was the Greeks who really believed that rational human beings were the essence and the quintessence of human striving. That what made us human was our ability to be rational. And it was from them that we learned this infatuation with wisdom. But you and I know that wisdom and knowledge are not necessarily the same. We will get knowledge, perhaps, from these bots. I just do not know that wisdom will be that forthcoming from them.
Psh, amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi Salkin, for joining us today on Face to Face. What a really a joy to have you here.
Always learning from you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the thinking.
Absolutely.
Thank
Rabbi Salkin, do you have anything that you want to plug? A book, an article, a website, anything you want to share with folks where they can find you?
They can find me at jeffsalkin@gmail.com. That's my personal email. They can read me on religionnews.com. My blog is Martini Judaism for those who want to be shaken and stirred. It has won 2 awards in subsequent years for the best religion blog of the year. And yes, I'm working on a new book, even as we speak, which is about the future of liberal Judaism in America.
Which is why you asked ChatGPT, what's the future of Reform Judaism?
I wanted to write the book for me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No such luck.
Just an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. And Rabbi Litwak, we'll see you this Shabbos. This is your last Shabbos without Cantor Norman, I think, right? He's coming back next
Yes,
week.
I will look forward to having Cantor Norman back soon enough.
Absolutely. And so to everyone, Chagurim Sameach, have a blessed, wonderful Hanukkah, and we'll see you all next time on Face to Face. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.